Hi, welcome to Northwest Fencing Center's training series. I'd like to welcome our Northwest Fencing Center fencers and visiting fencers from other clubs. Today we're going to talk about Armory, and I want you to begin to think about how Armory is different than the way you think about it normally. Most folks, their idea of Armory is my body cord needs to get fixed, my tip doesn't work anymore, I snapped my blade. And that's not untrue, but what you really want to begin to think about is Armory is much broader than that. It's the care and feeding of all your fencing equipment, and by taking care of it, you will begin to find that Armory is a place where you can control things inside your environment. Today we're going to look specifically at how it can impact the quality of your workouts. For instance, have you ever come to a class and found that you or somebody in the class has forgotten their fencing shoes or their glove, maybe their mask or their socks, maybe even their weapon? Have you ever forgotten one of these things? Was it distracting? Did that make a difference in how you were able to focus and concentrate on the lesson? I'll give you an example. And this has happened many more times than you would think. I'm getting ready to give a private lesson. Student shows up, they've forgotten their weapon. They have to go and find a club weapon that's as close as they can to the weapon they normally fence with and come and take their lesson. The first 5 minutes of the lesson is usually spent with them getting used to the feel of the new weapon and trying to redevelop some point control with it. We only had 20 minutes to work together, and a quarter of that time has been spent getting used to a weapon that they'll probably never use again. It's a waste of time for them, and it's not productive to their learning because they've lost that opportunity the 5 minutes gave them. So, if I'm going to come to a workout and I want to be all set and have everything so that I can focus on the lesson and I can focus on my coach, then what do I need? Let's look at the table behind me, what I consider the minimum things that need to be there for a good workout, whether it's a group class or a private lesson. Obviously, you're going to need your uniform, your plastron, your jacket, your knickers. You're going to need your long socks. Even if you're not an epee fencer and your legs are not target, they will often get hit inadvertently by the other fencers. The socks offer some protection there. You're going to need your fencing sneakers. I recommend that you have a set of sneakers that you use for fencing and only for fencing. If you're lucky enough to have a locker in your club, you can keep them in the locker. But if you're carrying your equipment back and forth, these go in your fencing bag, and they only get used on the fencing floor. Two things will be accomplished by this. One, they're going to last a long time, and they're going to remain clean. That means you're always going to have the best possible traction when you're out there fencing. At Northwest, we're lucky enough to have metal strips with excellent traction, but this is not the case at every place, and having nice clean shoes that only get used inside will help you with that. They're also going to last a lot longer. I'm going to need my glove. Again, the glove is part of how your weapon is going to feel in your hand. So if you're using the same glove, make sure that you've got it with you. Sure, you can borrow a club glove and you can get by, but it's a different glove. It's going to feel different, and it's going to distract you for at least some period of time during your workout. You're going to need body cords. I think you should have at least 2 at a workout. That's a minimum for competition, but for a workout, always have 2. If you're taking care of them, and we'll look at that in a few minutes, if you're taking care of them, they won't break very often, but eventually they will, and you're going to need to have a spare. If the spare is with you near the strip when you're working out, you can change it quickly. and it won't distract from your lesson. Same goes for weapons. You want to have 2. When it comes to weapons, I recommend that you rotate your stock. If you only have 2 weapons, alternate between the 2. You've probably set them up, or your coach has helped you set them up so that they're as close as possible to one another. But there's going to be one that you think is your favorite. And if you only use that one all the time, first of all, it's going to break sooner than the other ones. And if it happens to do that during a competition, you are now going to have to go to a backup weapon that you might not have used in the last 8 weeks. So if you alternate every workout back and forth between which weapon you start the workout with, you'll even the wear on your weapons, and you'll be used to using each one, and you won't have that distracted feeling of, oh my goodness, I have to use something I haven't used before in a pressure situation. So, if you have all of these things, you now can go into a workout with a calm mind, knowing that at least the things that you can control about that workout have been controlled. You are doing the things you need to do to maximize your learning in this situation. Now, there are 4 bonus things that you can add to this that will do more to increase what you get out of a workout than you might imagine. They sound pretty simple, but it's amazing to me as a coach in a large club, and I've also coached in other states, and I've coached in high schools, and it's amazing to me how many people do not do the following 4 things. Have a water bottle. Have it with you at the end of the strip. Put it down next to the reel, hook up, do your training. You have a quick break, you need a quick hydration, it's right there. And particularly as you consider what's going on right now, this is yours, only you are touching it. You don't have to walk all the way to a water fountain or get dehydrated. If you get dehydrated, your muscles get weaker, your reactions get slower, and your processing power in your brain gets slower too. Sometimes the first thing that you'll notice when somebody gets dehydrated is they start making really not great decisions. Second thing, it's hard to see what's going on when there's sweat in your eyes. A simple microfiber cloth or a washcloth in between workouts, you can give your face a quick wipe, get the sweat out of your eyes. If you're a glasses wearer and you use a microfiber towel like I do, you can give them a quick wipe and get the schmutz off so that you can see where you're going. Simple little thing. Sit it on top of your water bottle at the end of the strip. Carry it with you as you go through. You're all set. The next 2 things are about post-workout. When we're all done with a workout in fencing, we've been wearing all of this gear, and you're hot and you're sweaty. You're going to want to cool down and stretch. And while you're cooling down and stretching, it's an excellent time to take your notebook or your fencing journal if you have one and jot down just a few notes about what you did during your workout. Coach Vince has been giving you some excellent stretching advice. You can simply write a few things down while you're sitting down stretching out your hamstrings. A couple of notes, what we worked on today, what I did well, what I need to work on. Lastly, after you're done with that stretching and cooling down, before you head out of here, run over to a changing room and put on a dry t-shirt. It's going to sound a little bit silly, but as you go out of the building and you're in the cool air and you're covered with sweat, and initially that feels really good when you walk outside and cools you off, it feels nice. About halfway home, you're starting to stick to the car seat and you're getting a little bit cold and your muscles are tightening up. Those muscles you just worked out and then worked to get loose are going to start tightening up because they're getting cold. This is not about catching a cold. That's an old wives' tale. It's about keeping your body in the best condition you can. You've been working on it during a workout. You want to maximize it by cooling it down gradually after you've done your stretching on the way home. A dry t-shirt, it's a huge thing, especially if you have a long trip home from your club. You're not quite done yet. When you get home, you're going to want to take all of the things that have gotten sweaty out of your fencing bag. If you're lucky enough again to have a locker at your club, great. You can arrange the stuff in your locker so that the wet material is not up against your weapons. But you're going to want to take this stuff out of the bag. You don't want it next to your weapons. You don't want it next to your body cords. That's going to corrode those. They're going to wear out faster. On the blades, particularly if you're an epee or foil fencer, you will find that the rust will start forming underneath where the wires are glued and will start to push the wires out of the groove sooner, and they'll break away from your weapon and you'll have to re-glue them. And you know that once you go down that trail, eventually they're just going to have to be rewired. And if you have to pay someone to do that, it's expensive. And if you have to do it yourself, it's time consuming. You can avoid it with a simple 30 seconds, pull your wet stuff out of the bag. It'll take a lot longer before something like that happens. So, how do I make sure I've got all my stuff with me when I go? This brings up something that I hear a lot. Now, I'm not too surprised when one of our mini fencers, who's maybe 5 or 6 years old, shows up to class and they're wearing flip-flops or Crocs or something that's not really good fencing gear. And they'll go, "Oh, my mom forgot to bring my sneakers." Well, when you're 5 or 6 years old, you don't have a great deal of control on your surroundings. And it hasn't really occurred to you yet that you might have any. And so, yeah, I'm okay with a 5 or 6 year old saying, "I forgot." When you get to somebody who's 8, 9, 10 years old, and they come in and they say, "My mom didn't bring my fencing bag," or "My mom didn't put my glove back in my fencing bag," that's a little bit more concerning, because by the time you're in 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, I know, for instance, my daughters, when they were that age, they made their own sandwiches and lunches. Obviously, I did all the buying at the store and laid things out for them, but they found the time and they put it together and they had healthy lunches to eat and they took responsibility for it. That's way harder than making sure you've got all of this stuff, so I know you can do it. Here's the secret. Write down the list, all the things that you want to have with you. Write it on a piece of paper or type it out on your computer and print it out. Make it small enough to be handy to carry, not so big, not so small that you can't read it. And if you have a laminator, you can laminate it, or you can use some clear packing tape and make a lamination, a hole punch in the corner, and tie it to the handle of your fencing bag. Then you've got that list there that you can refer to all the time. Boom. Have I got everything? Great. Off you go. Sometimes you're going to be in a hurry. Having that list is going to be a great way to double check, make sure you've got everything. Now, sometimes I will still hear from people who are in middle school and high school, "My mom forgot to put my knickers in my fencing bag," or something of that sort. By the time you're that age, this is not your mother's job anymore. If you're a fencer, you are responsible for your fencing equipment. You can always ask for help, but ultimately it's your responsibility. So make that list. Get it on your fencing bag so you've got it. And make sure you have your stuff. Because ultimately, what does this come down to? So much of life is outside of our control. But if we focus on the things that we can control, in this case, having all of our things so that we have a good workout and taking care of it, well, then we have taken something that can cause us anxiety and made that anxiety go away. It's not there because we know we've done what we need to do. When we do those things, then we are also taking the first step of being responsible for our own learning. Yes, your coach is going to give you information. Yes, in a classroom, your teacher is going to give you information. We are going to give you assignments, things that you need to do at home to further your learning, like making a list. This is where people that excel separate themselves from people who do not. They take responsibility for the things they can do, and then they do them and make sure they have their stuff. They make sure they're remembering what they worked on. They try to control the things that they are able to control. That sounds pretty simple, and as a concept, it is. But it's difficult to do. It requires self-discipline, and self-discipline is something that you have to learn and practice. And this is a wonderful place to do it. It'll have effects all throughout your life if you control the things you can control with a goal in mind. Enjoy your workouts. We're going to be working out together sometime soon, and we're going to need this equipment. So in the meantime, make sure that it's in good shape. Get ready for the day that we're going to be back in the club enjoying our workouts again. Thanks for tuning in. Watch for the next one where we talk about how equipment can give us a much better competition experience.